Today we are going to do a lesson on making a line graph. Before beginning a line graph, the first thing you need to do is collect your data. In this particular experiment, the job was to figure out whether the length of the pendulum affected the number of cycles in 15 seconds. As you can see, when the length of the pendulum was 13 centimeters, the number of cycles in 15 seconds, that means the number of times the pendulum went to and fro, was 21. Compared to when the length of the pendulum was 200 centimeters, then the number of cycles in 15 seconds was only 5. Once you have completed your data table, then you are ready to move on to the next step of making a line graph. Step number 2 is to label your x-axis and your y-axis. The independent variable, what you changed in this experiment, which is the length of the pendulum, will go on the x-axis, which is the horizontal edge on the bottom. It goes this direction. The dependent variable, what you measured or counted in this experiment, the number of cycles in 15 seconds, will go on the y-axis, which is the vertical edge on the left side, so the one that goes up and down. All big words in the labels should begin with capital letters. Do not use symbols such as the number symbol in any of your labels. Labels on the axes must have units. The units of measurement are put in parentheses behind each label. They do not necessarily need to be capitalized. So when you make your line graph, your axes should look like this. Again, on the x-axis, the horizontal axis, the label is length of pendulum. Notice the capital L and the capital P. In parentheses is the unit, which was centimeters. And the y-axis, the vertical axis for your dependent variable, is the number of cycles. Again, note the capital N and the capital C, and they were counted in 15 seconds. Step number 3 to creating a line graph is to create a title. You use words from the x-axis and the y-axis to create your title. Other people should be able to figure out what the graph is about without asking you. Here's an example of a title. I took words from the x-axis, length of the pendulum, and combined them with the words from the y-axis, number of cycles. I shortened it up to length of pendulum and number of cycles. As long as you have your units in parentheses, they do not need to be included in the title. Next, you number your x and y axes. This is called the scale. The numbers that you choose should be evenly and logically spaced, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 2, 4, 6, 8. Not 1.3, 2.1, 4.8. The numbers should be centered on the lines and not in the spaces. Use as much of the graph as possible to number each axis. When I numbered this graph, since the greatest length of the pendulum was 200 centimeters, the most logical way to number was by tens. Notice that 10 is directly underneath the line, so is 20, 30, 40, and so on. In the y-axis, their greatest number of cycles was 21, so it was best to number up by ones. Note again that the 1 is directly across from the line, the 2, the 3, the 4, etc. Be careful not to turn your graph when numbering the y-axis. The numbers should read like a book, and they should look like this. Step number 5 in making a line graph is to plot your data. Place your data points on the graph. Make sure that they are big enough to be seen by everyone. I'm going to change the pen to red to plot the dots and make them just a little bit larger so they're easy to see. And if you remember back in your data table, you can turn to it and see that when the length of the pendulum was 13 centimeters, The number of cycles in 15 seconds was 21. So you find 13 centimeters, which is about here on your x-axis. Follow it all the way up to 21 and place your dot. 15 centimeters of the pendulum length would be right here. The number of cycles was 20 from your data table, so follow 15 up to 20, put a dot. 17 centimeters of the pendulum was 19 cycles in 15 seconds, so follow 17 up to 19 and put a dot. 18 centimeters for the length of the pendulum, cycled 18 times, so follow it up, place your dot. 20 centimeters of the pendulum, cycled 17 times, so place your dot. And continue on until you've plotted all of your data in the data table. The final step of making a line graph is to connect the dots. So going back to the graph, once you've plotted all your dots, just connect them. Until they are all connected, and then you have completed your line graph. The next step would be to look at your line graph and analyze your results.